So this story is about a boy named Yugji and his life full of struggles. He didn't have any particular talent, even though he was a kind-hearted boy. However, he had no knowledge of how to talk to others. In simple terms, we can call him an introvert. Because of this, he was troubled by his parents as well. Actually, by troubled, it means that they would force him to learn things that he had no interest in. They wanted him to become a perfect soldier by the age of 16, but deep down, they knew he could never do it because he was the complete opposite of his older sister, Kazuki. Kazuki was his elder sister, and also a genius, so Yugji preferred to avoid her. However, Kazuki always cared for her younger brother. She loved spending time with him, and they played together often. Kazuki would also encourage Yugji to pursue painting, but no matter how much he tried, his paintings were never as good as Kazuki's. Still, Kazuki reassured him, saying that someday, everyone would appreciate his work too. But one night, their father saw Yugji's paintings and became upset. He ordered Kazuki to throw them all away, believing that if anyone saw them, it would bring shame to the family. One day, Yugji met a man named Oslo, who, noticing Yuji's condition, gave him a chocolate bar. Meanwhile, Kazuki's paintings became so good that they became the primary source of income for the family. As a result, Kazuki became the favorite child of the parents, while Yuji's treatment grew even worse. There were times when the family would go out for dinner and not take Yugji with them. This started happening more frequently. One day, after coming home from dinner, Kazuki saw her brother eating a piece of stale bread. The bread had become so hard and old that he had to soak it in water to make it edible. Kazuki took Yugji to the refrigerator and told him that he could take and eat good food from there anytime. However, Yugji was scared that if he did, he would be punished. Seeing her brother in such a state, Kazuki felt terrible and apologized for how he was being treated. But this apology did not help Yugji, and in fact, only made things worse. Their father started hating Yugji even more, and their mother completely ignored him. One day, Yugji told Kazuki that he had made his first friend. Kazuki was initially happy, but when she learned that the friend was a girl, she became a little jealous. She feared that Yugji would spend more time with the girl than with her. She scolded Yugji and told him that next time, he should ask her permission before making any friends. As days went by, it became evident that the parents would agree to everything Kazuki wanted. Because of this, Yugji began to see his sister as someone who always got her way. But one day, Kazuki went out for some work, and a few hours later, the family received the tragic news that Kazuki had died in a car accident. After Kazuki's death, the family started facing numerous problems. Yuji's father began drinking heavily and started abusing his mother. He would even raise his hand against her. Tired of this abuse, Yuji's mother took him away to escape from his father. Yugji and his mother began a new life together, away from his father. Without his father around, Yugji was finally happy. But this happiness didn't last long. After a year, his father found them and came to their home, demanding money for alcohol. Even though they complied, he continued to harass Yuji's mother. Seeing this, Yugji couldn't control himself and attacked his father with a nearby bottle of alcohol, knocking him to the ground. Worried about the consequences, Yuji's mother gave him a bag containing all their savings and told him to leave immediately. Yugji, being innocent, left. But after a while, he heard police sirens and returned home. When he arrived, he saw people carrying a body out of the house, and on that body's wrist was the watch his father used to wear. When Yugji went inside, he saw detectives investigating a murder scene, and his mother was the prime suspect. Shocked by this, Yugji fainted. When he woke up in the hospital, he found a letter his mother had written for him. In the letter, she apologized for everything bad that had happened to him and for how his father had treated him. After reading this, Yugji couldn't hold back his tears and broke down crying. Once Yugji was discharged from the hospital, a man adopted him. This man was none other than Oslo, the same person who had once given Yugji a chocolate bar. However, Yuji's struggles were far from over. Oslo made Yugji wear a wig to make him look like a girl, resembling Kazuki. One day, a man tried to touch Yugji inappropriately, but Yugji ended up killing him. Impressed by this, Oslo took Yugji to his training camp. Oslo wanted to use Yugji as his tool, and Yugji agreed because he felt indebted to Oslo for adopting him. At the camp, Yugji discovered his hidden abilities, but this also made the other students dislike him, and they began bullying him. Among them, there was a girl named Merlin, who sympathized with Yugji and offered him medicine and food. This made Yugji feel like maybe the world wasn't as bad as he thought. Eventually, the time came for their final test, where the students had to either defeat their opponent or render them unable to fight. Unfortunately, Yuji's opponent was Merlin, and though he didn't want to fight her, the battle began, and Yugji couldn't afford to lose. So, despite his hesitation, he kicked Merlin, causing her to scream in pain. Hearing her cries, Yugji started seeing visions of his mother, and he felt like he was becoming just like his father. This thought overwhelmed him, and he lost control. Merlin took advantage of this and attacked him, knocking him to the ground. She then laughed and continued to punch him, ending the fight with one final blow. Afterward, she apologized to Yugji and cried, but Yugji resented her pity, feeling even more helpless and weak. This was the last time Yugji and Merlin saw each other because Merlin was killed on her first mission. 2 months later, Yugji received his first real mission, where he had to secretly eliminate a few targets. The mission seemed simple, and he completed many similar ones afterward. Then one day, the police surrounded Rei's mansion. They killed all of Rei's guards present there. Rei had already fled, and in the end they found a young boy there, which was Yugji. An agent named Asako saw something special in Yugji. Asako wanted to take Yugji with her, but her friend Yuria also wanted to come along because she wanted to keep an eye on him. Asako went to Yugji and told him to come with her, but Yugji didn't respond. Asako held his face and said, "From now on, you're my responsibility, and you will have to obey everything I say." Asako brought him home, and when she started changing his clothes, she noticed scars all over Yuji's body. Yugji had also been starving for many days. Asako then asked Yuria to bring some food. At the dining table, Yugji doesn't say anything and quietly sits there. But as soon as a fly lands in front of him, he crushes it. After that, Yugji comes to his senses and, out of fear, he has a panic attack. Asako says that Yugji must have faced a lot of torment. Asako brings a small dog for Yugji so that he doesn't feel lonely, and for the first time, Yugji starts behaving like a normal child. Asako tells Yuria that she wants to quit her job at the intelligence agency because she wants to take care of Yugji. Asako trains Yugji every day and tells him that if he wants to stay alive, he needs to become very strong. One day, Asako gives him sniper training. Yugji misses his first shot. Asako tells him that if he hits the target, she will give him a present. In the next shot, Yugji hits the target. Asako gives him a sniper kit, and Yugji tells Asako that she is his master because she has taught him so much. Asako feels happy to hear this. A few days later, one morning when Yugji wakes up, he sees that his dog is making a lot of noise because a wild bear has entered the house. Yugji rushes to grab his gun, but when he returns, the wild bear has killed his dog. After losing his dog, Yugji loses his courage. However, a little later he chases after the bear to kill it, but when he reaches there, he slips on the ground and the bear comes at him to attack. Yugji tries to defend himself with a knife, but the bear throws him away. Yugji has a flashback of his life, and then he blinds the bear in one eye with a small stick. Yugji picks up his gun and is about to kill the bear when he suddenly sees the bear's cubs. Yugji realizes that the bear was just bringing food for its children. Yugji starts crying, thinking, "Why did this happen to my dog? Why does this always happen to me?" When Yugji comes home, Asako asks him what happened. Yugji has his dog's empty collar in his hands and says, "I couldn't kill the bear after that." Asako hugs him and says that it's okay. In the evening, they both bury Yuji's dog's collar. A few years pass, and Asako's health starts to deteriorate. Whenever Yugji asks her what's wrong, she lies and says that nothing is wrong, but Yugji suspects that she isn't telling him the truth. Asako receives a call, which Yugji answers, and the person on the other end is asking why she isn't responding to the mission. They warn her that if she doesn't complete the mission, she will be put in jail. Because of Asako's poor health, Yugji decides to complete her mission. A few days later, Yuria asks Asako who is completing the mission. Asako tells her that due to her health issues, Yugji is completing her mission. Yuria gets angry and starts yelling at Asako. Just then, Yugji arrives and tells Yuria that Asako is not at fault, he is doing it of his own accord. But Yuria doesn't listen to him and takes him away. Now Yuria takes Yugji to the outside and asks him if he really wants to help Asako or if she is forcing him. Yuria didn't want Yugji to become like Asako. Yugji tells her that no, he genuinely wants to help her because this is the only way he can repay her kindness. Few days late, Asako tells Yugji that she needs to go to America for military training. Yugji agrees to go to America. In the academy, he meets a boy named Daniel. They quickly become best friends. When training starts, Yugji surpasses Danny. He also performs well in the range competition and hits the target with a bullet, which surprises the commander, who praises him because he trained with the world's best sniper, Asako. All of this is overheard by a girl named Miliela, who is standing there. That night, she approaches Yugji and talks to him angrily. Yugji thinks to himself why he only meets angry girls. He asks her what she wants, and she tells him that she wants to learn marksmanship. Miliela takes her weapon and goes to the ground with Yugji. She tells him that her father used to hit all the targets easily, even those that were out of range, but no one believes her. Yugji takes her weapon and hits the target. He tells her that he is sure her father is not lying. Miliela feels she has found someone she can trust. Days pass in this way, and Yuji's confidence and strength continue to grow. Now their group goes into a forest. At that night, while they are all resting, where the enemy attacks Yuji's group, they all hide and plan to attack. Yugji starts shooting at the enemies but also vomits. It becomes difficult for Yugji to fight them. He closes his eyes when the commander tells him to think about his family, with whom he had a good time, ate, drank, and laughed. He asks if he won't attack the enemy to save them. The commander reminds him that these enemies are not human, and by killing them, he can save his family and himself. Hearing this, Yugji gains courage and starts killing the enemies one by one, but he still doesn't stop firing. The commander comes and grabs him, telling him to stop firing because all the enemies are dead. But Yugji doesn't understand anything and becomes unconscious. Now when he opens his eyes, he sees that Miliela is holding his head in anger. She praises him, saying that because of him, everyone survived. Now their military training is complete, and they all prepare to return to their homes. Miliela stands by a window, and just then, Daniel comes to her and comforts her. But Miliela opens the window and prays for Yugji, wishing that he gets everything he desires. The next day, Yugji returns home, where Asako is very happy to see him. A few days later, he receives news of Daniel's death, which makes him very sad. Time passes and Yugji is on a mission in Spain when he receives a call from Yuria. She informs him that Asako's health is bad. Yugji leaves his mission and returns home. Yuria tells him that Asako's body has become weak. Yugji goes to Asako and, holding her hand, apologizes for being late. He asks her if she is going to die, to which she apologizes and says she has always lied to him about staying with him. Holding her hand, Yugji starts crying. The next morning, Asako dies and Yuria's subordinates start to take her body away. After Asako's death, Yugji was left alone in the house. He missed Asako deeply, feeling isolated in the world once again. A few days later, when Yuria came by and saw Yuji's condition, she couldn't bear to leave him alone and took him to her apartment. Yugji started living with Yuria, but both of them felt sad without Asako. After some time, Yugji remembers a piece of advice from Asako, who told him that he should find something that brings him joy. He goes on a trip, during which he decides that he should also live his life happily. When he returns home, he visits Asako's grave and tells her that he will join an ordinary school for a normal life. He arrives at the school, where he first meets Sachi, the class monitor, who usually wears a maid's outfit and wants everyone to think well of her. After meeting Sachi, Yugji encounters Amani, followed by Makina, and lastly, he meets Mikiru. However, instead of welcoming him, Mikiru attacks him, but Yugji is unfazed by it. A few weeks pass, and Yugji has developed good friendships with the others. He then plans a trip back to his hometown to relax. Suddenly, he recalls a childhood memory where he sees Sachi calling him. In fact, Sachi is the same girl who played with, which had been forbidden by his sister. He tells her that he had known for a long time that Sachi is indeed the girl he played with during childhood. Yugji shares that he had visited Sachi's hometown, where he met her uncle, who told him that Sachi's parents had passed away in an accident during her childhood. Sachi then reveals to Yugji that she felt very lonely after he stopped coming to the park. Furthermore, her parents were often busy with work and had no time for her. On her 10th birthday, she ran away from home because she felt extremely neglected. Unfortunately, when her parents came looking for her, they got into an accident. Sachi had witnessed all of this and began to blame herself, thinking that if she hadn't been so self-centered and had understood her parents' situation better, it might not have happened. Yugji reassures her that it's not her fault and that it's okay to be a little selfish sometimes. Hearing this makes Sachi feel a bit better. After this, Yugji decides to share his feelings with Amani. He tells her that he loves her very much and wants to be with her always. But as he speaks, Amani starts to cry. In fact, she has been wanting to tell him something for a long time. She reveals that his sister hadn't died but survived the accident. This revelation shocks Yugji. Amani also tells him that she is the only survivor who remained after the accident. Amani recounts that traumatic bus accident to Yugji. During a school trip, their bus tire burst, causing it to roll down a hill. When Amane and Kazuki regained consciousness, they pulled everyone out, but 2 girls had already died, and several others were injured. They tried to call for help but had no signal and couldn't find a way out. As night approached, they set up camp, covering the deceased girls' bodies. The situation worsened over the days as food ran out, leading them to eat insects and, eventually, a dog belonging to one of the girls who had died. As hunger grew, they faced despair, and more students died. Their teacher returned from a search for help empty-handed. As time passed, they learned that their teacher and some students eating the bodies of those who had died in the accident. It made them realize they had to escape. Kazuki and Amane managed to escape the chaos, but Kazuki sacrificed herself so Amane could flee. However, when she found Yugji first time, she recognized him, because his face is similar to his sister. After a few days, Yugji receives a phone call from Division 1, informing him of a new mission. His target is a man named Ethan. After taking his position, Yugji spots the target, only to realize that the man is none other than Oslo. Seeing Oslo shocks Yugji. Oslo turns towards Yugji and attempts to speak, trying to tell him that he has returned. Yugji couldn't understand how this was possible. The mission fails, and the CIA obtains video footage showing Yuji's involvement in the attack. As a result, Yugji is arrested. The CIA transports him to a camp, where he encounters a hologram of Kazuki, his sister, which surprises him. Yugji had long suspected that Kazuki wasn't dead, and Kazuki explains that she is merely a hologram, created from brain tissue through a process. Yugji asks her a question, and Kazuki's answer confirms that the girl before him is indeed his sister. He then asks why she never returned if she had survived. Kazuki apologizes, explaining that her condition prevented her from doing so. Kazuki reveals that Oslo is smuggling nuclear bombs and must be stopped. Yugji asks how he can accomplish this on his own. Kazuki informs him that the government has already made deals with Oslo, so there will be no outside help. Furthermore, Oslo controls the DuPont project, which Yugji himself was once a part of, and the last survivor. Yugji then asks what his next steps should be. Kazuki provides him with detailed information about Oslo. She orders Yugji to eliminate Oslo at any cost. Determined, Yugji replies that he has a personal score to settle with Oslo as well. The scene changes and we see Yugji tied up and locked in a prison room. A while later, a guard arrives and informs Yugji that he will be transferred to another location for the trial of a terrorist attack. As they are on their way, a group of people stops the vehicle, who turn out to be Oslo's men, and they successfully kidnap him. They place a watch on Yuji's wrist, which is actually a bomb. If Yugji tries to remove the watch, it will explode. Soon after, backup guards arrive, but a smoke bomb goes off, filling the area with smoke and making it hard to breathe. Amid the chaos, Yugji sees Sachi coming to rescue him. He feels a sense of relief, knowing that someone is there to save him. Sachi considers cutting off the watch, but Yugji warns her not to, explaining that it is a bomb. At that moment, Amain and Michiro arrive, and the four of them escape in a truck. However, enemies are still pursuing them, forcing them to drive at high speed. A helicopter then appears and starts dropping explosives on the truck, but another helicopter arrives which Miliela operating. She destroys the helicopter. However, Yugji loses consciousness. It reveals that after that night, a rescue team arrived and found that the teacher had also died, but Kazuki was still alive. The rescue team took Kazuki to the hospital, where she was kept for the next 3 years for experimentation with an AI robotic system. When Yugji regains consciousness, a girl named Julia Graham, part of the central agency, enters the room, but Yugji doesn't recognize her at first. Julia then reveals that she is the daughter of Paul Graham, one of the men Yugji had killed while working for Oslo. Although Yugji doesn't apologize, he tells her that he will take revenge on Oslo for everything. Julia removes her gun and leaves. Yugji then meets his sister, Kazuki. Seeing her alive, he hugs her and starts crying. Afterward, Yugji thanks everyone and says he must return. He promises that no matter what happens, he won't die and will return alive. Later, Yugji meets Yuria, who tries to stop him from going after Oslo, saying that he isn't strong enough to defeat him. She says that Asako couldn't even defeat him. Oslo wounded her so badly that she later died from those injuries. Yugji says he wants to kill Oslo to avenge her. After saying this, in the helicopter, Miliela asks Yugji why he doing all this. Yugji tells her that if he don't do it, he wouldn't be able to change anything. Yugji enters the ship and kills a guard. Yugji had entered inside the ship, and the guards began firing at him. But Yugji avoided their attacks and killed them one by one. Oslo realized Yugji was killing his men one by one. One of his men, Travis, promises Oslo that he will capture Yugji alive. Oslo, speaking to himself, says, "Hurry up, Yugji, because there's a girl waiting for you." As he says this, he looks at Asako's sword. Meanwhile, Travis descends into the basement and sees only darkness. Realizing that a mere child like Yugji had killed all his commanders, Travis was unable to communicate with anyone. Suddenly, he hears Yuji's voice telling him to put his gun down, But Travis doesn't listen and fires randomly. He spots a body and assumes it's Yugji shooting at it again. But then he realizes it's the dead body of his own commander. At that moment, Yugji comes up from behind and stabs him in the back, saying, "I told you to put your gun down." Just then, Travis receives a call from Oslo, which Yugji answers, telling him that he's coming back for revenge. Oslo understood that Yugji had killed all his commanders, so he sent Yuji's clone to capture him. Yuji's clone stood before him. Yugji asks, "Who are you?" The clone tells him, "I'm your brother DuPont, and I was made from your genes." DuPont throws a box at Yugji and tells him to inject it, but Yugji refuses. DuPont tries to insult him, but Yugji still refuses to touch the bottle and throws it away, which angers DuPont, and he charges at Yugji. Yugji dodges his attack and counters, but DuPont injects him with a serum that gives Yugji more power. Yugji then fights DuPont with even more intensity. DuPont injures Yugji and starts shooting at him, but Yugji throws away his gun and begins dodging DuPont's attacks using martial arts. He grabs DuPont's gun and shoots him, injuring him. DuPont falls to the ground and starts begging Yugji for mercy. Yugji feels pity for him, but DuPont uses this opportunity to inject himself again and resumes the fight. Before Yugji could kill him, he realized that DuPont was now overpowering him. They fought with knives once more. Yugji was heavily wounded and fell to the ground from the blood loss. He remembered Asako's words telling him to fight for himself and stay alive. This gave Yugji the strength to stand up again. DuPont charged at him for another attack, but Yugji dodged and stabbed him with his knife, killing him. After this, Yugji entered Oslo's room. Oslo was happy to see him, but this only made Yugji angrier. He attacks Oslo. Oslo dodges Yuji's attack and reminds him that there are only 5 minutes left before the bomb explodes. He tells Yugji that if he wants to survive, he'll have to take the key from him. Oslo had kept the key to ensure Yugji would come to him. Oslo then pulls out his sword and tells Yugji that it's the same sword Asako used to kill Travis's older brother. "Now, I'll use it to kill you too." Yugji deflects the attack with a table. Oslo tells Yugji that he won't let him live. Oslo's attacks were so fierce that Yugji dropped his knife and started feeling dizzy. Oslo took advantage of this and stabbed Yugji with his sword. Yugji pushed the sword deeper into his own body to get closer to Oslo, then grabbed a nearby pen and stabbed it into Oslo's neck, killing him. Yugji started looking for a way out, but the ship began exploding all around him. Yugji had forgotten the way out. Suddenly, he saw an illusion of Asako, telling him to leave. Yugji started to make his way out, but a huge explosion occurred just then. The scene changes, and 2 years have passed. Yugji is seen living peacefully on a private island, happy and content with everyone around him. And with this, the story comes to an end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will never miss an update. See you in the next one.